Hey guys, Brent Hull. Last time in Granbury, 1881, this awesome house restored to its original glory. Come check it out. Can you believe it? Look at this thing. It looks unbelievable. It's all dressed up for Christmas, but it looks fantastic inside and out. Let's go check it out. Kind of remember where we were when we started this thing and look where it's come and look what it's like now. Isn't it exciting? Remember when we got here that the two bays on either side were rotting a little bit? There had been a number of repairs on this house over the years, okay? There had been deterioration, there had been rot, there had been change of products, there had been numerous changes that had taken place over time. And yet we had a client who was open to us doing a really great restoration and bringing it back to its former glory. And I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the clock tower for the Granbury Courthouse, and it's so cool how close we are to town, how it gets back to those original roots of this town. And so we realized that this was a very wealthy house. Actually, we discovered that they owned this whole block and it went back to the other side. And so there had been a number of outbuildings, all this great history here, some of which was saved inside, and I'll have to show you that. But we had a house that was 140 years old that showed. It looked like it was 140 years old because of the repairs and damage. Now, one of the things you're trying to do in a preservation is trying to keep as much historic fabric as possible, okay? Because we wanted the narrative to be original, right? We're not trying to put Hardy on this house. First of all, Hardy isn't better, okay? Second of all, there's shadow lines and there's details that are a part of this. And so the siding that you're looking at here, 60% of it is original, okay? We did that because this original old growth wood lasts forever. So any of the wood that was cracked or rotted, and there wasn't much rot, but cracked or broken or harmed in some way, we took off. We kept as much original fabric as there. And remember on the insulation too, this is where we did the dimple mat and then we did the rock wool on the inside. So we've got good insulation in this house too, and it should be fairly energy efficient. Slowly, as we kind of went through this, we kind of learned more about it. We learned kind of what was original, what wasn't. We restored the windows, which was a great thing, right? Because these windows are 2/2. It's that classic Victorian look that was so popular in the 1880s. We found the original moldings. A lot of the moldings had been changed over time, and we looked at the quality of the wood and the type of wood to figure out what was original. All the original trim's gone back on. We know that these balconies were there because we have historic photos. Really a great Victorian house in Texas in the 1880s. An 1880s house from a wealthy person in Boston would have been over the top crazy, right? This is a Texas version of a really nice house. And we see it in the trim, we see it in the balustrade, we see it in the columns. That exuberance of the Victorian age kind of told in a Texas story. One thing that's fun, right, that's coming into Granbury, which is a smaller city outside of Fort Worth. We're 30 miles south of Fort Worth. But sometimes, and this town's blowing up right now, it's really growing, but sometimes in these towns that are smaller, you have a house like this, which in Fort Worth would have been bulldozed, right? That in Granbury it's preserved. And so that house right there is an historic house. And so there's a number of historic houses, and there's some log cabins here in this town. We have these houses to restore because the town's a little bit sleepy. That's great, that's good for us. As I remember this house, remember there was rot around the base of the house, that corner was kind of all shot, that these roof details, like we went back in here and really picked apart. I remember picking apart this column right here, trying to figure out which were the original moldings. And remember, we've gone back with sapele, we've gone back with Akoya, we've gone back with Caboni, different materials on this thing so they won't rot. This porch right now is a Caboni porch. And so we've gone back with this because it's that treated wood that won't rot over time. So front porches are notorious for rotting. This one won't do that. We've got original brackets and most of the stuff we were able to save, but you can tell that this is a new piece of wood. Now, we got this piece of wood, and I can tell it's new because of how clean it is, but we took original profiles that we had on here, milled new trim, new wood to go back to exactly the way it was with good wood so that it's going to last a long time. We also discovered that this little buildup was original, which we weren't sure of at the time, but we were looking at that, and then we saw that historic photo from over there looking back this way. And historic porch floors always ran vertically out because when water hits it, you want it to run out. You don't want it to be caught between the tongue and the grooves. And you'll see that we did the same thing on the back porch. Notice the porch ceiling's the same way, and especially oriented to move things out. But this is a very historic kind of sitting porch, right? As far as the depth of it. Let's go walk around this other side. I'm going to show you some of those other details. Remember standing here, remember looking at this corner and how the bottom plate is a big timber, and we'll see that inside, but these were rotted out in the corners, and we've gone back, we've gone and replaced all this wood here. This chimney was kind of a mess because of the way that the siding ran into the chimney, that there was gaps behind there, but now we've gone back in and toothed that in, actually scribed that siding to the stone so that it fits really nicely, and so there's no gaps. As we get back to here, remember this is an addition, okay? And these are false windows there. There's no windows in there because that's the back of the kitchen. Those are 2 bathrooms upstairs. But what you'll see is that original stone foundation. Okay, so we had a stone foundation here, and you'll notice that there's not heavy mortar. There's almost a dry stack foundation there. The timber sits on top of that, and then this was balloon framed, but we have big timbers here that go all the way to the roof. This is an addition. This is an addition on the house, and then we've got this great back porch here, looking onto our backyard, and then of course the original house there. But we have kind of tricked the view of the foundation so that that original foundation is really continued all the way around here, all the way to the other side. Got an historic door there that matches the period. So in preservation speak, and in preservation world, you're supposed to not match exactly what's on the historic so that someone later can come along and go, oh, this is a new part. And so you don't want an exact copy. At the same time, with a bad remodel, right, sometimes you'll have this ugly box on the back of an historic house or a modern box on the back of an historic house, and it's a complete disconnect. And so we're trying to find the balance there. We're trying to find this balance of being sensitive to the historic house, holding up to the ideals of that historic house, but not copying it exactly. Now, if you dig into the materials, you dig into how we made that and stuff like that, you'll know it's not original, but just in that first glance, we want to maintain and respect the historic and try to achieve the historic as far as the design and those ideals, but not be an ugly box. So that's the balance we're working for. And then of course this balcony up on the back side. And remember, we've got kind of a bulkhead going down underneath with the basement that we built. And then we've got this great porch. We'll go up to there in a second. But I mean, this house is just sings. I mean, it's just so fun to see all this thing put back in such beautiful shape. It's a charmer. Let's go inside. I'm going to show you some of that. Okay guys, entry hall, right? The original house was really 1 room deep, 3 rooms wide, room, stair hall, and then the same thing upstairs. That was an L, that was an addition put on the back. So if we just stay in this front area here, we've got this incredible stair. Now, we talked about the railroad in one of our videos as far as when the railroad got here and what that would have changed. I believe it's walnut, because it's a hardwood like that, may have come in when that fireplace came in. It may have come in and been part of something they would have had. It's a little bit unclear, but this is a great historic stair. You've got not only this octagonal piece, but the turning, and then this great newel where the handrail matches into the newel. This is a classic, awesome stairs. And the way it winds up and to follow that handrail is so hard to make, okay? With all those sweeps and the turns, a lot of that has to be hand carved. And so that would have been a skill they would have had back then, but that was hard. That's a hard twist to do. Certainly probably not to code even today, but that's a sexy little stair turn of how that all comes together. Now, if you come in here, there's so much fun stuff here. Right, look at the doors come back. Look at this hinge here, the butt hinge. We've got a 4-panel door, which had been kind of typical. It's a through mortise and tenon, so we got the tenon details that come right through here, right? So the way this was made is awesome. This mantle, I believe, is made on site. Okay, this is not something that would have come from a factory. And so remember, we went through a lot of iterations with the different fireplaces, and the discovery we had on that other mantle, the way the stone is done around here and the stone on the chimney. So I believe a lot of this would have been kind of a local mason would have used natural stone that would have been part of the property, maybe even part of the excavation that they used to make these fireplaces up. So really cool stuff here. Original beadboard ceilings that were part of this thing. The trim, look at the way this trim is done. Okay, this is an old way of doing the trim where the flat 1x, okay, is butt jointed here. This comes across, and then this is mitered. Okay, that is a old school way of doing a door casing, but sexy and cool, definitely historic. So we go into the dining room, we come back to this great mantle in here and this original fireplace here with all the stone around. Remember, we found the different hearths, the one upstairs that had been covered, and this great tile that she's got here. Remember, I looked at this and I said, what is this? What's going on with this? And we realized that this was kind of added after the railroad came. But we've got this original room. These are the original bay windows that were restored that look great. And then we opened this wall up, and now you go into the kitchen. So some of the great history on this house, this was a prominent man in this town. There's some great pictures of him and what he looked like with his Civil War jacket actually in the historic museum. So there's some fun stuff here. Some of the things that we remember the beadboard was actually a sheathing on the wall. And remember that it was used, it not only went on the ceiling, it went on the walls in certain areas. And then here's the sandboard maps. And what's interesting, here's the house, and here's that huge big property. There was kind of an outbuilding, we probably was a kitchen right there, kind of right off the back side of this thing would have been an outdoor kitchen. So in 1880s, you didn't have this kind of thing. It possibly would have been cooking in some kind of fire pit. Not really sure exactly what that would have looked like. But then these outbuildings back here would show up. And of course, this house has been reduced. The size of the property has been dropped down. There's the L that was added later with the balcony. Now, what was curious, I don't know if you remember when we talked about this in the video, that this version from 1898 and this version in 1905, that you have the bays on the window. And it was a discussion that we had of, were the bays added later? That doesn't make sense. Are we sure? And we think they just missed it. Okay, we think they are original because the windows matched everything. When we got into the framing matched the original framing. So it doesn't look like they were added later. But sandboard maps, if you watched our video on that, you can actually learn quite a bit about an historic house and really start to put things back together. But great history there. This kitchen is really awesome and fun. We did some things in here to try to tie it to the past. One of the things being the cabinet doors that go right to the ceiling. Before 1930, most kitchens had cabinets that went right to the ceiling. They're only on one wall, which is kind of typical of that period. But to have those upper cabinets like that is part of that kind of story, the way cabinets were built. This is the addition. We're in the room that's the addition. And we did this wall here that was a separation with the timbers. And I'm going to show you some of the fun things this owner did that she kept here. But we've got original wallpaper samples that were up on the wall. Some with the original plaster in here. We've got these nails that came from here. Look, they're all cut nails, okay? Cut nails were something that are a pre-1890 kind of nail, okay? After 1890, you get into wire nails with wire heads. Before that, they're all cut nails. That's what this is, box of different cut nails. Look at the timbers here that were actually under the house. So this would have been the beam, the plate beam, right? What is that, a 6x6 plate beam? What you're seeing here is the mortise and tenon of the joist, okay, that drops down into the beam. And so there's the tenon that was still there, right? You're seeing the parts and pieces, but there's the rot that we were having in some of these members here. Remember when we went back with the new members, we actually bought antique yellow pine timbers to go back so that they would last a long time. Got this faux opening here with the oak here, timbers supporting this rock. Remember, we're in Granbury, so that if you think about this is where this part of the house really ties to the city, right? Because you've got the courthouse down there. If you drive through the heart of downtown, you see a lot of buildings with this kind of stone all over them. So here's a little hint and a little tie to the city of Granbury, which I love and which is fun. This is the original L, okay? So now there's the front of the house, and this is the L we think was maybe the 1890s piece, because the windows were just slightly different, okay? The two windows that were here, the hardware was just a little bit different. So this was a room that we think was added a little bit later. Now, this room isn't quite as short, but she's got a really fun detail here, is that we built in this to give her a utility room down here. There wasn't much original in there. Now we've got a powder bath, now we've got a utility room, and we've got the original beadboard ceilings. And so there is a bunch of original fabric here that really helped us kind of infuse good design into here. And then just this, I showed you this from the outside. We found this original, this historic, I should say, door. I think it's from the 1870s. It could be as early as that, but certainly 1880s, 1890s is part of that story. The Caboni floor on the back porch. You notice the porch floors that run out that way. So let me show you upstairs, because there's a balcony off the master that's really awesome. It's a neat detail. These are the pieces that I'm talking that are carved, okay? And you can actually feel where the adze or whatever they were doing was chopped to make this piece, because this piece is not sold in the stores. And so that would have been handmade. So they had these straight pieces, and you can see it right there too. Look at the marks right there on that piece of wood as they're going from this spot to that turn, and how they get up there. That would have been handmade. Now, I just want to show you the master balcony, because it's really a fun space, because we've got that fireplace that comes up from below. So she's got a fireplace, but look at this balcony. And I think I would probably hang out here quite a bit. We went back with the Caboni floors. We went back with this porch details. Notice that we've got this bevel detail on the bottom rail. Okay, that's to stop the rain. Same thing up here. Now these are things that we're looking at historic millwork catalogs from the 1890s, finding these original profiles to know that there's a bead that you can see right there on the bottom, that this is beveled, that this sits down on top of that bevel so that water doesn't sit on it, so it doesn't rot. We've got good wood. This should last another 100 years. Caboni floors. But now we're on the back side of this house. We've got these great trim details, and wow, right? Pretty magical, pretty cool. Original beadboard ceilings, but really have captured this space and given her a really fun thing to have off her master. Have a cup of coffee out there in the morning and be pretty nice. So this was we're on the L, okay, we're on the back of the house, that second floor. There was a weird stair that went down. In fact, there you see the flooring detail where that stair went down the back way, and there was that really small shower or bathroom, remember that? And this was kind of an odd space. And so it's now been transformed into this awesome master bath with a shower, water closet, her closet, two sinks. It's pretty nice up here, and you could live in this house fairly easily with a lot of history and a lot of modern things. You saw the kitchen, you see this, pretty easy to live in. This is pretty special. Okay guys, beautiful, right? An amazing restoration. Great client, allowed me to do a bunch of great historic stuff here. We've matched the historic quality of the wood. We've matched the historic materials as best we can. We've gone back with new good materials so that those things will last longer. And of course, it's beautiful inside. What a charming, beautiful, wonderful house. And so thank you to this client for allowing me to do this, and thank you to you guys for following along. This was a fun one. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.